Hello everyone, today we have new video review and this time we are going to talk about quite large kit. As you can see, it barely fits into the video frame because it's a 1/32 US attack helicopter from ICM, and that's a new version of their AH-1G Cobra. As you can see, that's a late production version, and we have a commercial sample here, so it means we will get exactly the same stuff as what you'll see in this video review. So we are going to open it together and check what is actually supplied here. So straight away it is, let's say, safe to say that box art is really nice here. Even though it is visible that it is digital, still it's a good looking picture and I would be happy to put it as a poster on my wall. Here you can see comparison with my hand. Next, on the side here we have some information. Again, we have kit information as a dark text on the dark background, so I will have to take a look. Just give me a second. It's 241 parts inside, and length of the model will be 422 millimeters. Here we have also short history note, and on the opposite side we have 3 marking options, but do not worry about showing them upside down because we will check them in the marking guide, which is printed in the assembly manual. So I flip it over like this. Here you should always check, well, from recent time, let's say, that ICM kit is sealed with tape from all 4 sides, so it is not possible to open the box in the shop in order to check the sprues, for example. And if these seals are removed, it means somebody was opening this box before you, and that's why you should check all the frames if they are fine and nothing is broken off. Okay, so what I'm doing at the moment, I am cutting through this plastic tape, and then we will check what is actually supplied inside this really big box. Okay, so let's flip it over. It's a, I would say, typical design for ICM, so just give me a second, I will do it off the frame or off the table because it's a bit tricky to lift the top lid. Really tight fitment, so I just need to grab it somehow closer. Okay. It's always like this. As you remember, by the way, you can watch the video review with previous release and it was exactly the same thing over and over. So once you get a really big box from ICM, it's a bit of pain in the tail in order to remove it. But just to remind you, this top cover is flexible. It does not provide any protection whatsoever, but what is protecting your parts is this white cardboard box, which is opening with a flap. There is plenty of space inside, but as you can see, fuselage halves are really big, so it will be interesting to check all this stuff in detail. So just give me a second to place it aside. I don't have a lot of space here on my table today, so especially with such big kit, that's why it's a bit tricky. So here it is, resealable plastic bag, a lot of gray plastic sprues, so it will be interesting to take a closer look. By the way, if you know the main difference between early and late version of this helicopter, feel free to write it in the comment section because it is good for everybody to know. So here we start with the first frame. As you can see, it's not that big, but here we have the Gatling machine gun. We also have this some of the fuselage panels, and everything looks cool. I can maybe zoom in even closer so that you can check these parts in detail. In my opinion, molding quality looks fine, so there is nothing to complain about. And here you can check these parts from the opposite side. And yes, this machine gun will have to be assembled out of 2 hulls, so maybe you can source some resin replacement, who knows. But even this standard out of the box version looks fine. Next, I will have to zoom out as much as is possible. Okay. This should be alright. So here we have fuselage halves. Well, it was too far, so we can zoom in. Here we have fuselage halves, which are molded without obviously tail fin. We also have some fuselage panels molded separately. Here we have cockpit top, which is designed as a single piece part, and that's a really handy design because it's a pre-shaped part and it will be ready to be used. We have also raised rivets, so that's where we should zoom in so that you can check these parts closer, and they look quite impressive. So it's just a matter of maybe applying some painting and weathering on it in order to bring it out. Here on the fuselage you can also see recessed panel lines and rivets. Next we continue with some internal panels. Here we have pilot seats, another fuselage half obviously. And here we can flip it over so that you can see that these fuselage halves inside they are empty. We have only some guiding elements. And here, by the way, you can see these pilot seats, which will be upgraded with a separately molded plastic parts. Obviously, they won't stay just, let's say, plain shells. Next, we continue with a clear plastic sprue, which is packed into the separate plastic bag. So I'm going to open it right now, and we will check everything together. As far as I remember, this kit offered option to open the canopy parts. So here you can see these separate panels, and these parts are quite big. Here you can see comparison with my hand, so really large, I would say, glass areas. And I hope that we have masks, because ICM decided to include in the recent releases the mask guide. So this one I hope is not an exclusion from this rule, because otherwise it will be really tricky to work with this stuff. And next we continue with another gray plastic sprue. It is quite heavy because here we have some parts. Let's zoom out. So we have landing gear skis, we also have the lower fuselage panel, we have some parts for the engine, and also some parts for the main rotor. As you can see, it should be combined out of several elements. And here again we can zoom in so that you can check a closer look. We are going to start as usual from the left upper corner. Everything looks cool. We have some guiding elements here visible. So molding quality is also clean and crisp, even on the smallest parts. Here, by the way, you can see instrument panel, but I would rather suggest to get an upgrade out of PE parts. I think Edward already producing this thing, so it will be a really, I would say, good idea to install such parts, because in large scale it will be a noticeable upgrade and it will be worth it, because it will add some, let's say, realistic appearance to your kit. Okay, so next we continue with two absolutely identical plastic sprues. Here we have various armament and also external elements. I will show you only one sprue because there is no need to show the same stuff again and again, as you remember. So here we have various rocket launchers, landing gear parts, fuel tanks, and other things which can be installed on this helicopter, but we will have to check the assembly manual on which parts can be actually used with this particular version. So here you can take a closer look at some other elements. Everything looks cool, just like as previous elements. They're clean and they should be easy to work with. Again, for the landing gear wheels, maybe you can replace them with some resin parts, but note that design is done in such way that you can paint the wheel rims separately and then install the tire parts, so it will be also a handy thing for these guys who will use the standard plastic. Next, we have the final gray plastic sprue. This one is dedicated to tail parts, also to the main rotor, and this is a really huge thing, this main rotor, so pay attention to how you are building it. So if I flip it over, you can see that we have guiding elements here, and of course the same applies to these tail parts. And note that you have to decide which version you would like to replicate, because we have two versions of the tail parts. And again, external features are pretty much the same as what we had on the fuselage. Here you can see some parts for the nose turret, some fuselage panels, and other rotor parts, and tail rotor, which comes as a single piece part with attachment points in the middle, not on the leading edge, which is quite nice, but we have attachment points on the leading edge here. So pay attention to that as well. Okay, so we are done with plastic sprues, but that's not all, because we also have really big decal sheet. I would say that's a rather unusual thing for ICM. So here you can see it, and yes, some might say that some 1/32 scale kit pack even bigger decal sheets, but this one is also quite impressive. We have decals for the cockpit, we have also decals for these famous shark mouths, and everything looks cool. We have even some stencils, so it's just a matter of applying all this stuff on your model and you'll be good to go. Next, we continue with assembly manual. So this one is printed in form of large brochure. So let's zoom out and close the lenses. And you can see that we have short history note on the first page, also some technical specifications. Let's flip it over. And next we continue with the parts map. Red color means that these parts will not be used, so pay attention to that. And next we proceed with assembly. So everything starts with the pilot seat, and as you remember I said that pilot seats will be assembled out of several elements, and here you can see this, so you'll have to repeat it twice. Then you install pilot seats into the cockpit tab, you continue with instrument panels, and then you start working on some engine sections. So these parts can be visible through the separate panels. As you remember, they are molded as separate parts. Note that you have to drill some holes on the fuselage halves, so that's also something not to miss. And that's where you can see how this section is installed here. So you can open it, you can close it, it will be up to you. Next we proceed with installing the cockpit tab and closing fuselage halves together. And you can see that tail rotor is already in place. Obviously, nobody will follow this because it's better to leave it aside and install on the last stages of the assembly. Next, we continue with, what is that? Some cockpit parts. We also installed the nose section, which is glued out of two halves, so pay attention there because it might be a bit tricky to get a smooth connection between this, but it's really cool that we have a lower fuselage panels molded as a single piece parts. The same applies to this front section, or nose section if you prefer. Next, we continue with the nose turret and also the wing parts, which will be installed from both sides. They're assembled together with pylons. We assemble also Gatling machine gun, and it gets installed on one of these pylons. And as far as you can see, this one will be used as a counterbalance. Correct me if I'm wrong. Next we continue with so by the way, this machine gun is installed only for marking option 1 and 2. Next we continue with some parts for the tail section. Here we assemble the canopy parts. So first you install this clear middle section and then you start working on the side panels. And here, by the way, you can see the landing gear assembly. By the way, manufacturer does not show the possibility to, or actually it does. So here you can see that you can open these canopy panels. You can also open this fuselage panel, so that's also another assembly option. And next we continue with the main rotor assembly. We install it into the place. We assemble also engine gear wheels, which will be installed on these skis. And here we have some final steps for this special, let's say, transport thing, which is installed on the front. But this clamp can be removed, it's up to you, because as you can see it is shown or mentioned with this question mark. By the way, we have mask templates, so that's really cool because it means that you will be able to cut your own masks without wasting you some time trying to guess what shape you should get. Here we continue with some external equipment. Again, the choice will depend upon you and also on the marking option. And here we have first two marking options. So this one is from 1972, this one is from 1971, and one more aircraft is from 1972, but nobody stops you from finding some, let's say, alternative options, maybe with some aftermarket sets. As for the whole kit, it should be already available. You can get it in any good model shop, for example in Modelimex. Kit number is 32061, and of course I will be happy to hear your opinion about such a list. Do not forget to write it here in the comment section below. If you like this video, press the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and I will see you in the next video review as usual. Thank you for joining me today, and bye!